Like there's also privilege when it comes to like having time
Yes.
to cook stuff.
Definitely,
Like if you work a
100%,
full-time job,
100%.
if you have kids and stuff, a lot of the time it's just easier. You don't have the time and energy. I enjoy cooking, but it's a lot of work sometimes. And it's much easier for me to just like go through the drive-through.
Is that an excuse, or do you think that's really a reason why women cannot lose weight? When I saw this video come up, great people, I felt like we need to discuss this. Where my ladies at, and gents, I know you can chime in as well, but this is big. We talk about this all the time. Got video, got clips. Let's discuss this.
Yes, but still, you have to think from people who have like no money and they're thinking like, oh, I can get.
I've had no money. I've had $12 for a week's amount of food.
I hear both. I think that you definitely, in the short-term mindset, it is cheaper. You go to a fast food restaurant, they have like a $1 menu. I think they've even increased the $1 menu now. So,
like
which is crazy.
menu.
It's like a $2 menu.
$2 menu.
So that's valid, I think, but I think it's killing us in the long term. Like it's like that short dopamine effect, the dopamine where you're like, oh, I just need something right now.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue.
I also did want to, just touch on, other than like food costs, like there's also privilege when it comes to like having time
Yes.
to cook stuff.
Definitely,
Like if you work a
100%,
full-time job,
100%.
if you have kids and stuff, a lot of the time it's just easier. You don't have the time and energy. I enjoy cooking, but it's a lot of work sometimes. And it's much easier for me to just like go through the drive-through. And then also privilege when it comes to like your mental health. When you are depressed, when you're struggling to even like get through the day, it can be really hard to have that motivation to eat well, to move your body and stuff. So for then when people are like, oh, well, why aren't you working out? It's like, dude, I can barely even get out of bed. So like, please stop with that.
I just wanted to say that I didn't step forward because I have PCOS and I just recently.
I had to stop this real quick. I was trying to wait to the end. Okay, her nails are done. Beautiful nails. Yet you making excuses as to why you can't get to the gym. Unacceptable.
Got diagnosed with it. So with PCOS, it's so much more difficult for me to lose the weight and control what I want my physique to look like.
That clip is going to preference what we are discussing. Is it a choice to be fit or plus to be fit or overweight? Is it a choice? Is that something that we can control? Because this is really, really a powerful question. What do you all think about this?
And the first prompt is, your physique is in your control.
What do you think?
I think there are a few things that are in our control. For example, nutrition, that's in our control. Stress management, sleep, recovery, things like that, that's in our control.
I would say the only thing that's not in our control is our genetics.
I agree.
Our hormones.
Yep.
Which play a huge part for females. And our environment. I mean, environment can be in control a little bit, but it really depends on the environment.
I agree. Also
an
having
adult.
like a stable state of mind, at least for people who are overweight, at least in my life, it's very hard to, how can I explain this? Have my brain in the same set that I want to have my heart. So there's times that I'm really stressed out and I tend to do things that are not healthy for me. And that comes even from not working out to sleeping in, to avoiding exercise, and it's not healthy. So I think a lot of factors can contribute to you being overweight. It
Yes, but is it in your control? And that is the question.
doesn't just necessarily have to do with nutrition and food, but it is a good point to have a good nutrition system around you, even family-wise, you know.
Going off that, I think access and knowledge is a huge thing too. Like, do you live somewhere where access to more nutritious and healthy foods isn't as accessible? And then also the environment that you grow up in, like what does your family do? Those are all things, and the medications, you have no control on side effects of medication, that's out of your control. But yes, all the things that you guys mentioned in your control, but then there's so many other things that just are not within your control.
I definitely agree that certain things about our body can be in our control, but like you were saying with the genetics, those aren't things that we can control. Those are things that we are born with, that we inherit from family members that are passed down. We can't really control our height and how tall we are, or our bone density. We can't control certain things like that. So to an extent, I agree that there's certain things that we can control about our physique, but then there's other factors that come into it that are just absolutely impossible to change, like our genetics, like our height. Like those things can't be changed like by ourselves. It's not possible.
I wanted to just say I kind of agree in the sense that like there are things that might arise that like we don't like where it affects how we can control our things. Like, for example, if you're going through depression, I experienced depression in college where like you said, I literally couldn't get up out of bed. Like I had no motivation to cook. Like I would go eat fast food because it would give me like kind of like a rush where I was, feeling good. But in reality, I know it's causing more harm to me. And now, since I think like October, I've been working out. I lost 50 pounds. And I've just been on a good kick, a good journey. But I have the time. I have like a local like yoga studio where I clean and they give me free classes. And I know not everybody has that access. And I can only imagine if I was a mother, how hard it would be to be able to do all that stuff. But yeah, like I sometimes feel like I don't even have time in the day to take care of all the things that I need to take care of. So like I can only imagine being a mother of like 1, 2, 3 and having like to make the time to care for yourself. Like sometimes you won't even have that time.
And also consider what you're trying to lose weight for. Is it healthy or is it because you feel like you need to look better? Consider what is the reason why you're trying to lose weight.
Okay, let's go ahead and pause right here. So far, what are you thinking? Is your physique within your control? What do you think? And put it in the comments section. I think absolutely. Now, one young lady mentioned about, there being some things that if you have some type of disorder, if they're like hormonal dysfunctioning, or if you have a disease that may be impeding upon genetically where it's starting to impede on certain things that may slow down your metabolism, that may counter or make it much harder to lose weight. But I still feel like it is in your control. And that's what the bodybuilder lady who looks like she may be the oldest one on the panel, look at her. Now, I don't know what her issue is. She hasn't started saying anything yet, but I feel your physique is in your control. If a person truly has the desire and innate will to lose weight, it is possible. That is why we have doctors. There are weight loss medications. You can take weight loss supplements. So you can go the natural herbal route to hit fat burners and all types of things to help regulate that, as well as your metabolism and even take care of certain disease and disorders. Of course, you're going to consult with your doctor first. I'm not giving you medical advice because I'm not a doctor. I just know when it comes to weight loss, it can be done if that's what you decide in regards to your physique. Now, she mentioned, why would you want to do it? You have to think about the reasons. Well, the more fit you are internally, the more healthy you're going to be, period. Regardless, we were not born that way. There is no way a woman is pushing out no 200-pound kid, please, at birth. So if you know you aren't naturally that big, then does it even make sense to say genetically? Now let's talk about genetics here for a second, because I'm definitely aware of genetic predispositions, especially when it comes to mental health. And the same thing when it comes to your body. Many of us are genetically predispositioned for certain things because it runs in our family line. But that does not mean it's going to happen when it comes to weight loss. Let me be very clear about that. When it comes to weight loss, that means you have to be that way. She mentioned environment. One other young lady mentioned environment. There are some places where certain types of foods may not be easily accessible. So you may not have the best opportunity to get high end, but you still have an opportunity, lower cost of a better food, like frozen vegetables, like canned. So I feel like just in the short amount of time that I've listened, excuses, we cannot accept and tolerate excuses. Excuses amount to nothing that lead to nowhere. So if it's in your innate will, your physique, you can get it the way you want to be. And once again, I'm not talking about extremes.
I want to lose weight to stay healthy, not necessarily to stay in a body that I'm probably not going to be happy, because I've been thin before, and there was certain treatments that I got different, but in person, in my inside, I felt very different, and I was more happier. Not saying that I'm fat. I'm not trying to make unhealthy living a good thing, but I was happier because I didn't have to fit a certain size. And now I'm just working on staying healthy and making sure that it's going to work for me, and I'm going to spread that positivity to everybody else who's trying to lose weight as well.
Thank you. You said that you were thin at some point. Mm-hmm. What contributed to the weight gain?
I was drinking a lot. I was drinking, and also I do smoke.
Choices.
And back in the day, I didn't understand it. I didn't want to accept it. That being intoxicated was driving me to overeat. And it wasn't necessarily a problem, because when I was sober, I wouldn't get cravings to eating. It was more after I had drank and I had smoked, and probably if I hadn't had a meal in all day, I would wait until night after the party and I would overeat. So it's a lot of things that contributed to that, but I sat with myself and I looked at what I had done to myself. And I said, this is what you need to change. This is what you need to work on. But if you're not ready, just wait for it. But I definitely accept that it was me who drove me to that point.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. Question for the ladies on this side. Do you believe that you can be born overweight? Some people believe that you can't be naturally just overweight. What are your thoughts?
I do believe that you're with genetics. You can be born with a certain amount of, I don't want to say fat cells, but kind of sort of in a way, you know? So genetics will play a small role in that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can, besides your height, switch those genetics. You know, you can do things to help prevent whatever genetically your disposition is to that particular, whatever that is.
I agree.
So you can kind of a little bit, I would say, but I don't know. It's kind of touchy.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And with that question, I've been involved in bodybuilding, and in doing that, I've had the opportunity to play with my genetics. I've had the opportunity to shape my muscle. I've had the opportunity and the choice to change my physique. And so with that experience, I believe there is a lot in our control, and including access, because a person that is born poor does not have to stay poor. We see that many Americans are first-time millionaires, they're first-generation millionaires. Was that in their control to do? I believe so. So with the physique in bodybuilding, you are learning, okay, what are my genetic limitations, but what is under my control? So you're not comparing yourself to another athlete and figure, you're going with your division.
That's right.
And you're building based on that division and what your body can do in that division.
Come on.
And I believe that kind of taught me a lot of your physique is in your control, and the things that are outside of your control is kind of like in life. You're not going to worry about that. You're just going to do with what you have in your control.
That's right.
And if someone is born into a family where everyone is overweight, everyone has an unhealthy lifestyle, they are more likely scientifically, psychologically to carry on. It's the nature versus nurture. So really, they aren't necessarily born overweight, but they are cultured to be overweight.
Come on.
And then the genetic predisposition that they have with diet and exercise have been shown to change. That sugar is a main culprit in obesity. It is a main culprit in deregulating hormones and bringing a lot of mental health issues to exasperating them, to making it worse. ADHD, there's so many studies on that. So I just feel like the things about putting sugar in your mouth, that's under your control.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just because you are in that position, or you were raised in a household where maybe they didn't have a healthy lifestyle, doesn't mean you have to follow it. So yes and no.
Yeah, I don't know about genetics when you're initially born, but it's the habits of the lifestyle that you are born into, but there is also such thing as epigenetics, which is where you're not changing your DNA, but you're changing like the way that your genes are
Through environment.
like perceived. Basically, the example I always give is there's a picture of my mum, my sister, and myself. And my mum and my sister's legs is like very, very slim genetically as like an Asian family. We're all very small. But I've grown my muscles to a point where my legs are like 3 times the size of my rest of my families, you know? So, but that's because I was in a place where I had the time, I had the resources, I had the knowledge to be able to do all of those things, and I wanted to do that for myself. But also that's not always a want for everyone either, to differ from what.
Her question was, can you be born fat? And that's the example that I gave in the very beginning. No, we're not born 200 pounds. No, you're not going to be born a 50-pound baby. However, everything that they're saying to me truly, truly makes sense. There's the science out there backs it up, and I can definitely say I know for sure because I have truly spent a lot of time, reading evidence-based research in regards to being physically fit, genes, diet, what you're eating, exercise, how it plays a part. So here we go.
What they are genetically given.
And when you have children, I don't know if you do, but if you decide to, your children will probably take on the body type of what you're naturally built to look like genetically, right? Or will it be what you have now done to your body? Do you think that would play a factor?
I think that's the epigenetic side of things where it does alter things slightly, plus then the lifestyle that I have compared to. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to read more into that for sure.
Thank you for sharing that.
Now this clip, so based off of that, I'm gonna tie this thing all together because I want us to think fit or, plus size. Is it a choice? That's the overall gist of this video. Is your physique a choice? Is your body image a choice? And what are you doing to be your best self? That is the question. This clip here, they're talking about 185, and they all are the same weight, but they look different. Well, let's listen to this.
The thing we all have in common is we are all the same weight. 185 pounds right across the board. We have a number and we think of something associated with that number. You hear that someone's 220 pounds, you think, oh my gosh, they're unhealthy. You hear that someone's 185 pounds, all of a sudden you're looking at them differently. Maybe they're not looking at me like I'm fit now, they're looking at me like I'm overweight.
And then you've got the BMI bros and believers who think this is the only thing that measures health.
Right.
And then you have diet culture that preys on us because of this. So it's all a big vicious circle, and I feel frustrated, which I'm sure a lot of us do as well.
So we are all in the overweight and obese scale at BMI. Do we look obese? No. According to my BMI, I'm supposed to be between, get this, 118 and 156 pounds. When I walked down the aisle for my wedding, I was 125 pounds, clavicles popping, hip bones popping, lightheaded, about to faint because I was eating a piece of chicken and a piece of lettuce every day. I was starving myself. So that was my issue and that my nervousness with being here. But the point of this is so that we can start to dissociate these ideas of number and a category.
I want us to think about what that looked like. You saw 185 and you saw different women. So 185 muscular is going to look different. 185 lean may look different. 185 with a shorter height and maybe a little bit more fat on your body is going to look different. Even being shorter at 185 is really going to look different. So I do want to talk about the BMI situation though, because I totally get it. The BMI is a tricky thing because it does not equate into your makeup, like based off what we just saw. What do you all think about that? I do feel like at a certain height and a certain, let's say if you're a bodybuilder, for example, and you're, I don't know, a woman, you might be 5'10" or 5'11". What does 185 look like? I'm 5'1". 185 on me, boo. Ain't it? Because how many inches shorter am I? You know what I'm saying? Than the 5'11". So what is healthy for your body frame? And having less fat, not detrimental where you're extremely thin and you're unhealthy and you don't feel good. The less fat, of course, is better. It's better on your heart. And you can't tell me that a woman who is fit or with less fat on their body, slim, I don't want to just say it. You don't have to be thin, but whatever a healthy look is for you, you have to feel good about yourself. It's absolutely, I'm not going to believe that if you have an excessive amount of fat on your body, because I know when I was overweight, I didn't feel good about myself, period. I didn't like how my clothes fit. I didn't. So I just don't, we could talk about the plus size all day, and I feel you, but I still feel healthy is best. And we can't make excuses for genetics. We can't make excuses for time. We can't even make excuses for income, because like in that first TikTok clip, that lady's nails was blinging. I think she may have had some kids too. But it's what you prioritize.
If only everyone had access and the free time to do this. I'm sure so many other people would love to do that. But people are struggling. They need to pay their rent. They can't just allot that time. They need to prioritize. And I think that's ultimately what is really sad.
I'm sorry, I disagree. Like, I wake up at 4 a.m., have a full-time job, I get it done.
But your life allows it.
I make my life.
No, exactly.
Some people are not gonna like this. You see, the 4 a.m. girl, yes, she has made fitness a priority, so her life now allows for that kind of work. However, losing weight has very little to do with making time to go to the gym.
I don't have time to cook breakfast. I don't have time to cook breakfast either. I can function without coffee. I can function without coffee either.
You see, hear me out. A lot of people who are overweight, obese now, either spent time choosing to not do anything about it, or they were in a position where they didn't know what to do anything about it. And so is it still a choice, even in the worst of environments, that you still have to make a change? Absolutely. But that change is gonna look different for everybody. And I think it's hard for someone who isn't making that choice to look at somebody like the 4 a.m. girl and be like, damn, I could never do that. And you're kind of full of yourself for sharing that, when in reality, what we should be looking at is that's what she's doing right now when she's already built the habits. And so I think the best course of action is to meet the person who actually wants to change where they are. And if you do that, you then focus on the changes that they can do instead of comparing yourself to the changes that somebody else has gone through. You see, I can accept that sometimes we find ourselves in our body that we didn't mean to be in. But what I can't accept is someone thinking that they do not have a choice to stay there, get worse, or be better. And that's it.
Content, Skydust Fitness, Cityline TV, the debate circle #1 for those TikTok clips. I truly appreciate it, and it was some great content. And one final thing I wanted to discuss, great people, is this. One of the young ladies on, if it wasn't, it's maybe further on in this video, and I am going to drop the original YouTube video in my description, not the TikToks, but the original YouTube video, so you can watch it all the way through. Very, very good. One young lady mentioned about having PCOS and how it makes it a lot harder for her to lose weight. I'm not familiar with it, but this is what it is. A hormonal disorder common among women of reproductive age is characterized by irregular or missed periods, excess androgens, did I say that right? And or polycystic ovaries. PCOS can lead to various health issues like infertility, weight gain, and an increased risk of diabetes and heart problems. And here it just gives more features about what's going on, like hormonal imbalance, irregular cycles, excess androgens, and polycystic ovaries. These are symptoms: weight gain or difficulty losing weight. So if there is someone that may have this, share in the comment section if, you have, or if you're losing weight, if you've lost weight, are you taking something medically, like medication to support with that? Because I definitely support that. I feel like this: if a person wants to lose weight, They should do whatever is required, especially if it is taxing on their self-esteem, if it is taxing on their self-confidence, if it's taxing on their mindset mentally, and it is impeding their livelihood, if it's impeding the overall well-being of their lifestyle, and especially their psychological functioning. I wanted us to discuss this because it is a big thing, you know, in our society and especially among women. And I think we are in control. We can't make excuses. In regards to this disorder that I was just speaking of, we see here that this is on the other end of the spectrum where there are some things that's impeding upon their genetics based off this hormonal disorder. So how does this person lose weight? Let's say they want to lose 50 pounds. How do they do that? Is there a way that they still can lose weight? Because it said it's difficult. Is there a medication that they could be on for extended amounts of time that will help? Are there certain exercises or hormone balances that could support weight loss for a person, a woman, or not a man, but for a woman who has PCOS? So I feel like there are some things that could impede upon a woman's ability to be able to lose weight if that's something that we have hormonal, that's on the other end of the spectrum. But if we don't have these disorders, and even with a disorder, now this is 2025, what can be done to help with that? Can there be medications that can be used? And that is the question. So what do you all think about this? I didn't really want this to be a very, very long video. Do you think that it can be, do you think your physique is a choice, or do you think you have no say so in your physique? And how do you feel about what they were saying? I think if we make excuses for things, except those on the other end of the spectrum that have disorders, that might make it much more difficult for the weight to come off. Are we making excuses? Is the body positive movement taken to an extreme where being obese is an overweight that's detrimental to your health, acceptable? Because being overweight is, and I'm talking about detrimentally overweight, you are 1 or 2 pounds over what your, what a body weight is. You got to gauge it. We can't get to where it's just, but if you are extremely overweight and it's detrimental and it's causing you health problems and you're taking medication and you have to do all these things just to live, that's detrimental, and we don't have to be that way. And it is in your choice. We can't make excuses. I love what this man said at the very end. He said you have to meet a person with where they are and with what the resources they have. Don't compare yourself to somebody else who may have unlimited resources, or who has a certain amount of resources, or who has the time to do things a little bit different from you. But those things that are most important to us and that we prioritize, we get them done. And I don't care what the time and resources, from the poorest person to the richest person. We do the things that are most important to us, and just know that. Okay, great people. What do you think about this video? How do you feel about it? Let's get in the comments section. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. And I'll see you on the next video. Like, comment, and share. And I'll see you soon.
Start to apply the pressure listening to a 45-minute lecture. Intellectualism is conceptualism.